All right, thank you for staying with Kenya's Choice 2022 right here on Citizen TV. Let me introduce my guests real quick again. Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch is here. Asante sana for making time, Kevin.
Yeah.
Honorable John Kagusha is here, Mukurweini Member of Parliament-elect and also former Nyeri County Assembly Speaker. Thank you so much for making time. And Dr. Conrad Bosire, Devolution Governance Expert, is also here with us. We're talking mostly about devolution, the hits and the misses, and what the new governor elects, plus those who are coming back after being in the political cold for 5 years. Now they've returned. Where should their focus be? We'll also talk about some of the allocated money that they have and what they should do with that. There's a swearing in across the counties today, starting from 9 a.m. But before that, let's touch a bit on the issues that are happening right now. The most current on the Supreme Court battle, sub judice, is one of those issues we're going to scatter around, so we can't really get into the detail, the gist of it all, just general commentary around that. And I'll start with you, Honorable Kagusha. What should the courts really rely on going forward? There's been a lot that has been happening in that sphere. There's a counter accusations. Chebukati was paid. In fact, that is the latest one from the Azimio la Umoja team. They have also given their evidence. There's demands and prayers from 9 different petitions there. What should the courts really rely on at the end of it all?
Thank you very much. I want to first of all take this opportunity because I'm appearing on Citizen TV for the first time after I was given the mandate of Mukurweini by the Mukurweini people. So I want to take this opportunity to really thank all the people of Mukurweini for having given me an opportunity to be your leader and to be your member of parliament, a task that I'm going to be taking with dedication, commitment, and with passion, and I will be able to serve the people of Mukurweini with all the knowledge I have and sacrifice that I'm able to make. And I know by serving people of Mukurweini is not going to be a favor, but really they deserve good and quality service. I also want to thank my political party, the UDA party, for having given me the ticket to run in this election. We don't take that for granted whatsoever. I want to really take that time to thank my political party, UDA. Now, I want to just point out that it's quite unfortunate that after the Azimio la Umoja, is it Azimio la Umoja, Kenya One Alliance?
One Kenya.
One Kenya Alliance. After they have taken the opportunity to go to court, they have continued again to publicly lynch the IEBC commissioner, particularly the returning officer. I think it's unfortunate, it's uncalled for. What needs to be done is once you have gone to court and you think you have a case, then you need to keep quiet and wait for the court process to determine the issues that you have presented in court. But it seems like these people are going to court and still going to the public opinion to try and influence the way people think about the commissioners of IEBC. And you know very well that they have rejected these commissioners, rather they have rejected Chebukati right from the word go. And of course we know, as it has been put clearly, it's not the first time that Raila Odinga is rejecting the returning officer or the chairman of IEBC. This he has done before many times. In fact, for the last 5 times when he has contested from 1997, he has practically rejected every other returning officer of the IEBC. And this happens because he has, virtually lost all those elections. And I want to point out that and say that the IEBC have a very, very short time to try and listen to both sides. The Azimio, they have looked at the petition, or they are looking at the petition. The Kenya Kwanza will also be able to respond to the petition that was to the court, the Supreme Court. And the days that they will have to listen to this case is just about 3 days and determine what happened in this case. And so one of the things you expect to see is them interrogating the evidence that has been given. And from that evidence, what they will be looking at is basically what was presented or what was done at the polling station. You know that from the last ruling of the Supreme Court, it was clearly put that an election will start and end at the polling station. And this means we'll be looking at the Form 34A. And what they'll then be looking at, was this the Form 34A that was uploaded? You saw yesterday the IEBC took all those physical forms. So they'll be looking at these physical forms, especially where there are queries. They'll be looking at that form, then go to the system or the server, then go to the physical forms that have been presented. And of course, they'll be able to determine which is a valid form, and is there any form that has been changed in any way, in one way or another. And of course, if you look at the systems, the way they were put this time round, you'll find that it was very difficult to change a form from the polling station by the time it's getting to Bomas of Kenya, because all the forms were uploaded at the point of the polling station. And remember, they were also using the coordinates of the KIMS kit in the classrooms where the voting was happening. And so if you moved with your KIMS kit to a different venue, then it would be difficult then to be able to upload this form, because it was going to capture the coordinates of that classroom, it was going to capture the coordinates, and it also had a barcode, which you'd be able to scan and have it taken in the SIM kit, I mean in the KIMS kit. Yeah. So it's going to be an exercise that is not going to be very difficult this time round, because we have a system, we have the physical forms, and so I don't think people need to be worried so much about that process. It's going to be easy. It's just a matter of confirmation. And I'm sure the court will be able to get its own finding within a very short time. Probably even by now they have already been able to check by the time they got those forms yesterday. And the good thing with the court process is that then it separates lies, propaganda, it separates the fake news and false hope and the public lynching that we are seeing now happening. And of course, the court will be able to separate all those issues. But I would also want to give a piece of advice to our Azimio brothers. Please stop inciting the public. It is wrong to go and declare yourself president-elect. It is wrong to go and lynch the IEBC officers or commissioners in public. I think it's only fair that we wait for the court process to take to go through, and then the determination will be done by the court. And I also want to urge them, once the court has pronounced itself, please accept the results of the court. Whatever the case, accept the results of the court.
Let me bring in Kevin on this. And Kevin, we can't really delve into the merits or the demerits of the case, but this continuous court battles every time during an election, does it foster democracy or further exacerbate the trust deficit we have in our institutions? Because based on what Kagusha was saying, there's the public personality lynching, there's allegations that the UDA cloned the IEBC server, things like that. But when these court battles are taken seriously, are they fostering the democracy or further exacerbating the trust deficit in the institution of the IEBC?
Thank you so much, Trevor. Both of those angles are correct, in the sense that for those whose interest is strengthening and enhancing democracy, then you'd expect that the kind of jurisprudence that we set will be able to deal with the gaps, the misses, and probably some issues that exist within our democratic system, which is what I believe that the people who go to court to seek for justice, and particularly in this case electoral justice, are actually looking for. That yes, we have had two petitions in the past, 2013 and 2017. And so they'll be seeking to look at what lessons have we learned. And IEBC, for instance, in this case says that out of the two petitions, we have been able to put in certain fixes. We have made certain progress, and that is supposed to therefore enhance and bolster the kind of democratic processes, electoral processes, and even the kind of the questions that may exist within our democratic system, which include the fact that Kenya is a pure democratic, a pure presidential democracy. And so what do you do with the second runners up who garners 6.9 million against 7.1 million, president-elect in that case? So with 200,000 votes, for instance, where do you take the people who probably have a feeling that our president or our presidential candidate will just go out there and really, so there are questions, therefore, that come up that will be required to be responded to, so that our democracy is seen to be growing stronger, and that we also seen to be learning from certain lessons, which then presents the question of public trust and confidence. And that really, I would put it in tandem as well with the voter turnout, particularly what we have seen in this particular election. If you look at, despite the 6.4 million new voters that came up, of course, given IEBC's responsibilities and interests of people to want to vote because of various reasons, maybe political parties, the kind of individuals that showed up at both the county and the national levels, and even the issues that were coming up. But then the question is, where do you put the public participation mechanisms around elections, where people walk into a polling station, they do their they exercise their responsibility very peacefully and walk back home, and then ultimately have to wait for 4 to 5 to 6 days, and suddenly there are chaos at Bomas, and then suddenly rumors have it that someone was paid to hand over a certificate, or that forms were forged, or systems were hacked. That, in my view, tends to more or less dent the trust that people have, both in institutions and even in the process, in the political process, particularly the election. So I believe that petitions, and our Constitution has given space and room for petitions by putting together the three arms of government, one of it being the judiciary, and that the Supreme Court will be able to deal with issues of presidential petitions, while other courts deal with the other issues that rest at maybe the High Court for county levels, MCAs, and all that. So in my view, Trevor, I believe that the two of what you're asking in terms of public confidence and trust, and also strengthening of our democratic processes apply. But it purely depends on where you stand while you are looking at it, because people who are probably have been declared as president or governor-elect or whatever might imagine that we did this so that we can grow our democracy. But people who feel aggrieved because of this particular process might probably say, we'll never wake up and go and vote, which then presents the question, where do we put indicators of governance? Because governments are not, you have to undertake an election to have a government put in place. And so I believe that depending on the outcome of the petition, there are many questions and gaps that we will still be seeking to deal with and to fill.
Okay. Dr. Bosire, you know, in 2017, there was a nullification of the presidential results here. In fact, the poll body IBC was told that they did not conduct a transparent nor verifiable election, but no one was held culpable. Is that where we dropped the ball? Should someone have been held culpable? Because even then, there was calls for the chairperson of Wafula Chebukati to resign. Same thing we're hearing now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Trevor. I think looking at the happenings in the elections in 2022, and specifically the presidential election petition, it is good to take stock of where we have come from as a country. In 2007, the parties refused to go to court, saying they had no faith in the justice system. And we all saw what happened. In 2013, the parties went to court, and in 2017, and now in 2022. So there is some progress in terms of the justice institutions. And also looking at 2017, and looking at how some parts of the general election in 2022 are conducted, we must also appreciate that there was some progress from the election management body, the IEBC, although still there are issues which are waiting before the court. So I think that there is some progress. Of course, not everything is perfect, but the issues which now the parties have raised are critical, and the court, they'll have their day in court. The court will look at the issues and give us the orders based on the issues which have been raised. But I agree. For some reason, when we identify issues to be addressed in elections, in between the elections, these issues which are left unaddressed. Very many issues were pointed out by the court in 2017. Those were not addressed. Remember, for the longest time, almost 3 years, the IEBC had just 3 commissioners, and we recruited almost in crisis towards the election and all that. So I think as a country, we need to bear in mind that electoral reforms should not happen maybe 6 months to the election. This is something that should be done over the period. Immediately after we are done with elections, we continue building the IEBC and preparing it to give a credible election, bearing in mind the challenges that we had from the last election cycle. Yeah. This thing of 6 months, 3 months, 2 weeks to the election is when Parliament wants to pass regulations, wants to pass laws, fix this and that. It brings a lot of chaos and disruption. So I agree that there has been some progress, but then also as a country, after you're done with the election and with 5 years ahead of us, we have enough time to plan and build the electoral management institutions so that we have a fair and credible election.
Yeah, but Kagusha, should there be individual culpability? Because we've seen just yesterday, Pamela Wangoi, the IBC official, freed on a 100,000 shillings cash bail after being charged in Nyeri court over issuing 5 presidential ballot papers to a voter. Individual culpability. But that is not cascaded all the way to the top. I mean, in fact, in 2017, when the election was nullified, no one was held accountable.
There must be individual culpability where one has deliberately mismanaged an election. What you'll find from the last petition that was taken to Supreme Court is that there is nothing really that arose that would point out maybe to anything that a person had done personally, consciously and deliberately to mismanage an election. I think well, the findings largely from the Supreme Court were that the systems that were in place to manage the election were not transparent, and they could not be verifiable, and did not lead to an accountable process. So what the Supreme Court did is to give guidance now, and kind of said, whatever the system that you use to manage this election must now be very transparent and must be verifiable. And that is how the new system was put in place. If you look at what we had this time around as compared to what we had in 2017, the server in 2017 was a closed server. I mean, you would not be able to access whatever information that was in that server. And you remember there was even a court ruling that was trying to kind of force the server to be opened and accessed. And again, the server was not even based in Kenya. You remember, I think it was based in Paris. And this time around, if you look at what happened, that whole process was overhauled. Now we had a server based here in Kenya, and it was open. In fact, by the time you completed signing the Form 34A with the agents at the polling station, it was uploaded. And so in this case, you will find that the ruling that was given, or the guidance that was given by the Supreme Court, the best people actually to implement that were the people who had an experience with what was running before. And I want to commend them. I want to commend them because the implementation of the court ruling and guidance was clearly done this time around. Except that, as Bosire has said, some of those rules and regulations were made rather late in the day. But of course, it's also understandable because if you look at what we had in the commission, some of the commissioners resigned quite early, and we did not have that replacement until very late. And of course, you know, the work of replacing those commissioners is not the commission itself. It's a political class, which again delayed. Of course, you'd imagine with their own reasons. And if you look at the way commission actually is now behaving, you'll actually see the 4 commissioners that were replaced late in the day are the ones who seem to be disowning results that they have been reading themselves on the floor. And who actually also seems to think that they should also do a moderation or a vote on the vote that we casted. And we have a very interesting case in that scenario. But what I would say is, was the process followed? Did we follow the rules and regulations that were proposed by the Supreme Court of Kenya in 2017? Yes, that was followed. They made a very important ruling that has now become the reference point, that an election starts and ends at the polling station. And that really is what this election has been. Yeah. And winning and losing this Supreme Court case petition is actually going to be basically on that the election was held at the polling station and it ended there. Did you have an agent at the polling station? Yes, you did. Did they sign? Yes, they signed. What did they sign? It's not very difficult. I think that's the most simplest and maybe the easiest question to answer. Yeah? Did every agent sign that form? So in that case, there may not have been the culpable anyone culpable or responsible of mismanaging an election at that particular point in time. I think it was really a process. And you see, the challenge with this process is that they are not just commissioned processes or systems. These are embedded also together with the political parties and other stakeholders before the election is done. And so everyone kind of becomes culpable in this case. But at this point in time, we are happy that the Supreme Court has been able to give very, very good guidance. And I'm sure even in this Supreme Court petition that we are having today, that is going on, there are some findings that also will come out. I'm sure that the Supreme Court will also give even further guidance. Yeah. That further guidance may not necessarily, I don't know, I can't say much about that, but it may not necessarily affect maybe the final tally or the final results. But there will probably be areas where the Supreme Court might find the need to come up with the further suggestions and further guidance on how the system needs to be improved, so that in future we have even a more transparent and open election. And that can only be important in adding to our jurisprudence, can only be important in adding to enriching our electoral process in Kenya, and it needs to be taken very positively.
Okay. Kevin, you wanted to jump into this before you...
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few additions, but with a slight departure from what Mheshimiwa is saying. Mm-hmm. Trevor, if you look at some of the issues that we are talking about, for example, printing of a ballot paper, there has to be approvals within the commission. Who is approving? Because we cannot say that Kakamega and Mombasa, for example, and all the other places have problems, and we just swallow them. Whose responsibility within the commission was it to conduct approvals of ballot papers? That individual or those individuals need to be held accountable. Remember, we are spending more than 40 billion on this election. This is taxpayers' money. There are also people who are sacrificing their own resources, including time, to now go for a second election. That's the easiest example that I can be able to give. What does that really mean to the taxpayer and also to the individual? For example, at County Governance Watch, where I engage, for a simple letter to go, even to IEBC or to Council of Governors, for example, there are people who draft it, it moves to the second level until when it is signed, to ensure that it communicates the effective message that the organization wants to speak out there. If you want to print a simple newsletter, the degree of drafting, the back and forth, oh, change this, put a full stop, remove this one, change the T into a small, not a big. Can't IEBC just tell Kenyans that so-and-so messed up? We were rushing to meet with the Inspector General of Police, for example, and so we didn't spend time to look at the Mombasa ballot papers. You are 7 commissioners. India does over 918 million people elections. There are only 3 commissioners. In Kenya, we are 7, but of course, it's within our constitutional requirement. All the 7 commissioners cannot be wrong. There has to be somebody whose responsibility it is to ensure that KIEMS kits are working.
Yeah.
And that if they're not working, what is the remedial measure that you have put in place? Somebody has to be charged with security operations, and that polling stations and polling centers are secured. That when voters go, for example, in Marsabit or wherever, and goons attack them, there has to be somebody to be asked, honestly. Did you ensure that you have the correct conversations with the county commander to give you the right number of police officers, to put security measures in place? ICT, if KIEMS kits fail, as I'm saying, there has to be a commissioner or somebody within the administrative framework of the commission that has to give Kenyans an answer. Yeah. We cannot say that the Supreme Court will be able to deal with those issues. I don't think it is a responsibility. Why? Because we have a 5-year electoral cycle. One election ends, we start another one immediately, including audits. The auditing that is done for the commission should also be able to bring out the issues and the people who slept on their job. I'm utterly surprised that a PO in Nyeri is being charged for giving 5 ballots to someone, but somebody who failed to ensure that a whole county election does not take place is walking scot-free. I think it is a little bit irresponsible in my view. We need to tighten that even as we go to court and we look at all these issues, there's a reason why Kenyans have entrusted commissioners with their right to vote. So all sovereign power in Article 1 of the Constitution is vested in the people.
Yeah.
22.1 million people gave them the power. Go and manage this election on our behalf. We cannot just be mediocre and then we allow the Supreme Court to respond to those issues. I'm hoping that there's going to be a day when Kenyans will be told who killed Musando, for example, because that was still 2017 elections. We saw IEBC commissioners coming and speaking to us. It's been over 5 to 6 years. No responses. An arrow in Bakassi East is dead. There's a family that is grieving. You know, those family members need a response. Somebody has to really wake up and tell them, we are sorry about this. We are investigating it, and ultimately we'll give you some responses. So accountability, I think, in our commissions, we've not done very well as a people. And I'm afraid to say it's a buck that we can't keep passing and saying Supreme Court, Supreme Court, Supreme Court.
All right. Bosire, I have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the issues of devolution now. There's a lot going on there. 45 county governors are taking out of office today. There's a controversy in terms of the budgets, but we'll also find out what should their entry look like, what are the hits and misses of devolution. That coming up in just a bit. But keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Kenya's Choice 2022. I'll read some of them in regards to what we're talking about now before we get into the devolution one as well. All right, see you shortly.